Do you want to share about that step from Division 2 to Division 1, and just the step of faith that was maybe for yourself, but also for the program? Like, was it a popular thing, as much as or little as you'd want to share about that?
Yeah, when we went Division 1, I mean, again, the huge majority of the state was not only questioning it, they were verbally against it, and I think it was just it was virgin territory.
Yeah.
There were no Division 1, there was no reference, and internally it was virgin territory. We met every week. Our athletic director Fred Oyen would say, "This is the next step." It was like we were in class again. Like I was learning to be something that was new. And I'll never forget about the fourth week, maybe a little further in, Dr. Ryan said, the AD said, "Now I need to share this with you. Half of you will lose your jobs on average. Half of the head coaches because of the difficulty, the transition."
Yeah.
And what was cool is nobody complained about that. Nobody said, "Oh, woe is me." We rolled up our sleeves and said, "We're part of this mission. Let's do it." And more importantly, our players did that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget telling our players on the practice field and saying, "If you're in," this is one of the most emotional things I've ever had. "If you're in, stand up," because they were kneeling. And one by one, these guys stood up. 90-some guys said, "We're all in." And what a cool moment for me.
That's incredible. Why do you think, like, even kind of talk about our South Dakotanness a little bit? Why do you think there was the hesitation to go D1? I mean, because that for me is exciting. Like, gosh, why wouldn't we want to do that? Fear, selling ourselves short, not thinking we can cut it. Like, is it those things and all the yeah? Like, what do you think that was?
Yeah, I'm a math major, so the answer's a point, and there's a lot of vectors that intersect. And so some of the vectors are this. USD didn't go, the biggest rivalry we had. What about the USD rivalry? And my answer was they could have gone. What happened with the NDSU rivalry? It's one of the best, if not the best, in the nation. And so that was the positive. I was asked, and I'll use a town, what about the young man from De Smet? Is he going to be able to play here? And I thought, we're always going to start in South Dakota. If he's good enough, he'll play. No different than Division 2. And then I think this was a unwarranted fear that we would bring in a bunch of people from way outside of the area,
Yeah.
and they would not fit at South Dakota State, and they would change our culture. And you have a choice as a coach. You have a choice when you hire, right?
That's right.
And if your culture's strong, I think you can probably bring almost anybody in, and then you decide, does a guy fit or not? And so I think those are some of the top things that intersect to answer your question.
No, that's so cool. Something I've been talking to about with a few of my friends lately. I think for a long time there was a little bit of this "oh golly" in us South Dakotans, like "oh golly, all shucks." Like, I don't know if I'm made for that. But right now it seems to be like there's a wave of business leaders, of even coaches. I think of Kalen DeBoer, who are going on to do some great, amazing things.
I think for a lot of people, you have to see something happen to believe it can happen. You have to see an indication. I've always thought belief is a choice. If you want to get somewhere, believe it's the thing to do, and you'll get there faster. But I agree with you, and it's been so special. Just finish that up. It's been so special to be part of that journey. And I mean, I'll never forget calling a guy, Andy Talley at Villanova, head coach, national champion coach. This was probably 5-6 years ago. And I introduced myself on the phone, and he goes, "I know who you are." And I thought, how does he know who I am? Because our reputation and our brand had become national. And a little bit of ego there, obviously,
Yeah.
but what a cool thing that was.
Yeah, that's so cool. Coach, you mentioned culture, which is so important in a church, in a sports team, and in a business. I had the honor of being able to do a chapel service this last year and was in your locker room for one of the games. It's the most, I've told so many different people this, including fathers of potential football players. And
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Helping
But
out.
I said, it's the most life-giving, it was the most life-giving culture. And there's the obviouses of the no foul language, which was shocking to my ears to even hear that. When you look at the culture you built, specifically in the locker room, was that true day one when you first started? Was it true in the first 5 years? Could I have gotten away with cursing in your locker room? Not even just cursing, but just like life-giving. Looking back, was that an initial thing right away when you took over? Or do you look back and say, gosh, no, I probably had about 7 or 8 locker room cultures throughout my career?
Well, you used the term "you built," and I didn't build anything. I was part of it. I happened to wear the title head coach, but there are so many people that contribute in a football program, and obviously we have to be a voice of one and a heartbeat of one. Yeah. But it's a combination. So,
You're like, I
want to go on record. Yeah, my first 2 or 3 years as a head coach, I was a disaster. I had this image that a jackrabbit football player looked like this, and I literally tried to take 110 guys and make them look like that. And what was that like? It was shorter hair. It was no jewelry. It was, why would you do a tattoo? I'm embarrassed to say this. Yeah. And the guys didn't like me. We didn't get along. They're very respectful, so you don't, but you get the feeling that something's wrong here. And then I don't know what happened, but I thought, God made us all different. I need to rejoice in that. I need to find the kid with the tattoo and find out the story. Yeah. I need to tell him I like his long hair. And it became real for me. And at that moment, we became, in terms of culture, we started becoming a family. And in a family, I maybe heard me say this, one of our pillars is family/love. And I'm so proud of the number of times I hear the word love in our program, from an assistant to a player, from a player to a player, from a head coach to a player. And so there's no stronger, and I know there's a lot of different family situations, but there's no stronger environment than walking in the door of your family and you're loved instantly. No better, and that's what we created.